In the Romantic, we always have go to the limits of our instruments and the limits of our artistic imagination. It's between life and death. It's hope and desperate. But at the end, desperate wins. We come to a very important part in the compositions of Francisco Tárrega. Among his original works, I consider his Mazurkas as really outstanding. Outstanding in style, complexity, and musical quality. Of course, if we think about the Mazurka, we think of Chopin, who's the leading poet for this form. And definitely as a pianist, Tárrega was influenced by Chopin's music. And his adaptation of Mazurkas on the guitar, he also did transcriptions of Chopin, of Mazurkas. His adaptations on the guitar are on one side very guitaristic, but the character is pianistic too. So this is not a contradiction, because he is both a pianist, whenever famous as a guitarist. So I will play a little bit from the Prelude number 5, which is in fact is a Mazurka in E major, just to work out a little bit the character of the Mazurka. So this was the entire Prelude number 5, Mazurka in E major. So as a comparison, let's just check out the beginnings, only the beginnings of some other Mazurkas. Very famous, the Mazurka Marietta. If we take the beginning of Marietta, we have first the idea of a shift as a kind of upbeat. Okay, that's clear. Then it goes on. So it says an accent on this. So what one do we want to hear? This or? So the ideal would be that we only with the left hand succeed in. So it gets a bit hard if I push too high. Instead of, or, that's ugly. We need, so that the melodic line is not corrupted. Here, it's connecting melodic lines. And again. Now we come to the bass register. Let's take a little bit more time. It gives more weight, like on a cello. More or less like this. I just want to demonstrate so that we know what is the potential of the left hand for the espressivo on the guitar. And we come to Adelita, very famous, very short, very nice. And we have the theme of the sueño, just look that up, which in fact starts as another mazurka by Chopin, but it continues in a different way. So that's the beginning of Sueño, another mazurka. And finally, there's the Mazurka in Sol, which are very tricky fingerings. And so on. So these are the examples of the beginning of the Mazurka. Yap, da-dum, dum, yak. So this is the character. And coming back to the E major mazurka, it's very interesting that the emphasis is on the second beat. It's in 3/4, and we have an accent. So if we see the two chords, E major, so here we have a subdominant, A major, but still maintaining the B natural in the bass. So this is a kind of dissonance, and this creates an accent as well, plus the extra accent we do by the attack. So if we combine this, and then if we consider yum, yo ba 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 ba, yum ba ba, yum ba ba, yum ba ba, it's a little bit jumping forward to the two and giving it an accent. And so on. So he keeps on with the rhythm. Yak tadam babam param tadam babap payam baba chum yam tadam babam papyam babam bawi. And then we talked about that before already, but I repeat again. If we have a slurred appoggiatura, if we have very short, it's not, it's, and try to make a crescendo with it. And the score says piano, so. Very nice, the parallel of the subdominant. And watch out, there's an accent on the third beat now. Here, so don't play too loud before. So he brings to an end the dominant section, double dominant. And then comes a kind of cadence. Yeah, that's quite tricky, we have to work that. So this passage, of course, creates a very special tension because it's like a cadence. It's a little bit out of meter, which makes it interesting to return to the meter afterwards. So it says un poco crescendo. So if we remember that we are still in a dominant section, so what a nice way. It's really a way full of energy, full of poetry. So we have to see that the special gimmick is how to create it. I want to repeat again that to achieve that, it's almost impossible to do a parallel movement of the arm. There are a lot of theories how to do a shift on the guitar or on the cello. I oriented always on the technique of the cello. My father was a professional cellist, and and I found out that they always have a kind of preparation. So we have the starting note, we move the elbow in the direction where we want to go, and then we do this movement. And we come here, but we do it in a way, if you would have an error in your hand, you would do this movement, chock. That means you extend to the back and you want to go back in the direction where you want to push the arrow. So that means you start with the elbow and then you do the lasso. I call it lasso or lasso in English, the cowboy thing, chock. And you do this movement with the arm. The profit is that you double the speed by adding this movement with this movement. If you have this, then you are very fast there. And the good thing is that it is an accelerating movement. It's not just zing. As I said before, in the beginning of the course, it's like in the car. You do a full gas and full brake, which is not very economical. So instead of that, we have a relatively slow preparation and then speed up at the end. So if I do this on the guitar, I would do it. I do it now in slow motion. We could do it in the film as a slow motion, actually. And so we put the arrow to the final note with the C sharp. So this is a minor seventh. We are jumping from D sharp to C sharp. Sorry if I don't hit, I'm in a special position to show you. And we end up in the vibrato. So if we have that in the context, and really try to feel like Pablo Casals on his cello, and we enjoy. It's a bit exaggerated now, but imagine this heavy cello espressivo sound, which we can do on the guitar. And if we have this passage, maybe on the Taurus guitar, just for fun, I'm doing that to you. It's nice to have the old lady always beside. So we have. And then it goes on. Okay, this was an example how to do the shift. That's a very important part because you have all these decorative portamento and glissandi all over with Tárrega's music. So for example, you have in our Mazurka in E, in the Mazurka in Sol, we have the same, Marietta. Very often we hear, that's very vulgar, we don't want to hear bai, paradon, bai, da. We could almost play without it. The pianists, they have to do it, they have no chance. They have just to play that note, but we can do. this gives a special attraction. Even when he does his transcription of the Bach Fugue and so on, he really does it. Of course, everybody's laughing about that today, but think of an electric guitarist which doing this, you know, just saying. These are very short glissando just to give it a kick. Okay, probably we wouldn't play it today like this because we are now very well informed about historical performance, and maybe this kind of little decoration did not exist. But it shows the joy Tárrega has with these decorations. Don't make them too important, but they must be very elegant and charming, and they give the spice to the dinner.